Good morning. Welcome to week 4 of our Winter Break Creative Challenge. This week we're going to stay in Illustrator and play with some of the skills we learned in week 3. So our challenge this week is to build a snowflake. And this is one of my favorite ways to show you all the things you can do to manipulate shapes within Illustrator. Now, if you don't have Illustrator, I'm going to show you some fun tricks in Spark. We're going to get away from icons and make it your own. Kind of like we did last week. So again, we're just building on those skills. Create a fun snowflake. I guarantee none of them are going to be the same. Post those in our Slack channel and let me know if you have any questions. All right, let's get started designing our snowflake. And I've set things up just like I did last week. So I've got the first artboard. This is kind of where we're going to be headed. I've got my colors pulled out from my color library. And I'm ready to get going. So really what we're working on this time is how we can use some alignment tools and some of the transform tools. So I'm going to start with just grabbing my line tool. And I'm going to hold shift because I want a nice straight line here. Once I've got that, I'm going to go ahead and I want to think about the weight of my line. And I'm going to make it a little larger. Just have a nice thick line in there. And of course I have my appearance panel open. So if I wanted to manipulate anything as far as maybe this becomes a dashed line, round the corners. We talked about that last week, so you can watch that video. I'm going to go ahead and leave this a straight line. And I'm liking that color too. So now I'm going to add these kind of spokes that you see out here. So what I want to do is pay attention to my properties panel as I kind of draw these. And these are going to give me an idea as to how this is looking for me and if I've got everything aligned. So I'm kind of liking the angle on that. Now on this one, I do want to go ahead and round those end caps. So that's my stroke. And now I'm just going to copy it. So I'm just going to Alt and drag. And what I want is that my distance is about 45, maybe 50 from the previous one. And I can later align these. So this is just getting kind of close to where I might want these. And so now I'm going to select all of these. So I'm just going to marquee over them. And then I'm going to go into my alignment panel. And I'm going to hit those 3 dots. That gives me more options. And I want to distribute the spacing. So when I click that, it's going to distribute the spacing aligned to my selection. So that means they are now evenly spaced out together. And you can see, now they are. So now I've got those distributed evenly. And then if I wanted to, shift these, move these, I can get those to where I want. So I kind of like that location. Now I'm ready to reflect them. So since they're all selected, this is easy. I can just flip along the horizontal axis. I can also use some transforms. So I'm going to go Object, Transform, and I want to reflect this. And you've got a preview, so it's going to preview what you're reflecting. And so we want to do this vertical reflection, and we're going to create a copy. So now that we've made a copy, we can just drag that copy over here, make sure that those are intersected. So first part done. Now we're going to draw a little circle on the top of this. So I'm going to grab my ellipse tool and I want to align it. So I'm going to make sure I have that Q that I've aligned to the anchor. I'm going to hold my Alt key, which draws from the center out, and my Shift key. So Alt or Option and Shift. And then I've drawn that shape. Now I want this to be filled. And I'm going to go ahead and eyedropper that contrast color. So far so good. Now I'm wondering what it might look like if I have a similar shape down at the bottom. Same operation. Again, make sure I'm aligned. Alt, Option, Shift. I'm going to make this one a little bit bigger. And we're going to change the color on it. So I like where I'm headed with this. I think this is looking pretty good. And now I'm ready to do the rotation of my snowflake. So I'm going to select all of these objects, and you can get, at this point, get experimental. Draw as much as you want. Remember, we're going to be rotating this whole object. So think about this as the repeated pattern that you're going to have. So I have that selected. Now I'm going to grab my rotation tool, and the reason why I want to use my rotation tool is because I want to make sure I've correctly set this anchor point. And if I rotate it now, it's rotating here from the center of the object. I actually want to hold my Alt key down, or Option, and click down here. So notice that anchor point is now down here, so it's going to rotate from that point. Now how do you determine the angle? Well, you let Illustrator do some math. So there's 360 degrees in a circle, and I want 6 points. So I just type the math in there. Give it a little preview, make sure it's looking how I want, and then copy away. Now, make things easy. If I've copied once, I can just Command D around in the circle. So now I can start playing with how I might want to make some new interesting shapes with this. So one of the ways I can do that is maybe I want to change some of the colors. So let's say on every other one, we're going to have that dark color. And then with this center shape, I'm kind of liking this kind of floral thing that came in here, but I'm going to change it up a little bit. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to grab my shape builder tool. And so you can already see I've got some really kind of interesting shapes in here. So I'm going to separate some of these so that I can play with some alternative colors. So I'm just going to come through and I'm just clicking each of these overlapping areas so that they're all separate shapes. I think I've got them all. Okay. So now that they're separate shapes, I can start playing with different colors for these. So let's say on these interior shapes, and I'm just holding my Shift key as I move around here, finding those. I missed one right there. That's okay. We'll fix that. And we're just gonna change that color. So you can see how you can start creating some really interesting patterns and shapes from that. I'm going to go back. And yeah, I missed these ones right in here. I missed when I shape build. So I'm going to continue to play with my snowflake, but that's how you can start getting some really interesting things, is combining those rotations along with the shape builder tool. I'm just going to point out some of the other transforms you can make. So one of the things you can do, let's say I wanted a star in the center, and this is what I did on the other side. And I like that, but I wanted to create something on the inside as well. So I can use that Object Transform and Scale menu, and I want to make sure I scale corners, strokes, and effects, hit copy, and now I basically have a shape inside a shape. So that's a nice way to use some of those transforms as well. So play with these transform options, either copying, remember it'll do the math for you, and see what you come up with. If you don't have Illustrator, we can also do some of these things inside of Spark. So I went ahead and started just a regular Instagram post, and I wanted to show you how you can use some of the provided colors. So yeah, we picked a whole bunch, but maybe you don't want to take the time to copy your colors over and mess with all that. There's a lot of really neat color sets that you can use in here. So I'm really kind of liking this one. To me, it feels similar to what we had over in Illustrator. So I'm going to set that as my color choice. And then I can use the icons for those shapes. So just like we started with a line, let's start with the line here. So there's my first line. Now, what are some things I can and can't do with it? Well, this doesn't have a rounded end. So if I want that rounded cap, I'm going to have to find the one with the rounded cap. So that's the first pointer to you. The other thing that we don't have inside of Post is an alignment tool. So we will need to duplicate and then manually rotate anything that we come up with. Now, we can make life a little bit easy for ourselves because we can group things together. We can align objects together and make sure they're aligned. After that, we can go ahead and duplicate again and then rotate those groups. So you can start to build something very similar. So if I wanted to add then the circle, I can grab those, add those, and it is pulling the colors from that color set that we picked. So that part is nice. So I could start kind of overlaying these shapes and making my own snowflake here inside of Spark. And then download and have those as an icon that I can use just using my download. So that's how you can use some of the shape building tools and the icons inside a post to kind of do your own thing. Remember though that there are all kinds of great icons in here, so you can pick and choose those and add those to just utilize those as your kind of your snowflake icon. So those are experiments in Spark, making your own icon, and experiments in Illustrator, making your own snowflake there. Remember to post whatever you create inside our Slack channel and let me know if you have any questions.